Alright, I'm back here to help you realize what has been going on in Emma. So, with this video, I'm going to be discussing chapters 10 through 15. Okay, so it starts off, Emma and Harry make a visit to a poor family which is near Mr. Elton's. As I was said in past videos, Emma's been trying to get Mr. Elton to be with Harriet. So on their way, Harriet expresses her surprise that Emma is not married, but then Emma just guesses out. She's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna remain single," which is sort of weird because you want to be a matchmaker. You're helping everyone else except yourself, which is one thing you should have done first. So along the time there, Emma tries to attempts to leave Mr. Elton and Harriet alone together, falling behind. She goes, talks to a child, ties her boots, the obvious distractions. And then, but as it comes to be, Mr. Elton explains that I don't really like her. Which is really sad because it's more or less like, today's society is like, no man, you should hang out with this girl. He's a really good girl. And then they hang out with her for like an hour and then they're like, dude, get me out of here. So it goes on, and then there's another bringing of the speculation for Mr. Weston's son, Mr. Frank Churchill, to come. Who the hell is this guy? I need to know. I already know is that is his son, but we don't get to see much of him. I'm getting really pissed off about that. So comes later on reason this news is brought about is because Mr. Weston and a new Mrs. Weston and come, and then Isabel, who is Emma's sister, who was married a while back ago, comes in, is then filled in on all the news, and then she inquires after Jane Fairfax, Mrs. Bates' niece, and suggests that Jane would make good companions for Emma. Yeah, I don't think that, because we get a lot of indication that Emma does not like Jane. And I want to point something out, that I saw her name, Jane's last name was Fairfax, and I remember reading in junior year Jane Eyre that there was an old lady who, when Jane became older and became a governess, that Mrs. Fairfax was one of the ladies helping out at the house. So I was just like, I read that and I was like, whoa, that reminds me of all that. And that story has, well, it's a lot with this one, because in there Jane Eyre was single, and she was more about single. She didn't really show affection towards anyone, and she did only really have one friend. And then we continue on, and then this is a quote that I actually like to point out. It's in chapter 16. I forget the page at the moment, but it says, as she understood their ways, could allow for their ignorance and their temptations, had no romantic expectations of extraordinary virtue from those for whom education had done so little, entered into their troubles with ready sympathy, and always gave her assistance with as much intelligence as goodwill. I honestly love that quote when I found it, because she talks a lot about she doesn't care for certain values, but when they're going for the poor, she seems more open. It's not more for vanity, like when she became friends with Harriet and she's trying to matchmake her, it's more towards herself, it's more for her needs. But when she does the charity work, it shows a lot of good thoughts from her. Alright, as it continues through, the Woodhouse and Knightley are invited to the Weston Ants for a Christmas Eve dinner. Well, Harriet and Mr. Elton are invited, but Harriet is sick, and then strangely, instead of Miss Elton saying no, I'll just leave, he actually remains there, which puzzles Emma a lot, because it's just like, don't you like Harriet? I've been trying to set you up with her. Why you still want to come to the party? When do you want to be with her? And then, but because of his constant hovering presence, it actually makes her worried. Because earlier during the party, Mr. Knightley's all like, you know, he only has a feeling. I'm pretty sure he has feelings for you. And then, and as the night goes on, Emma sees him more present into it, that like he actually is showing likeness for her. And then it's that a lot. And then there's a lot of things like as it goes on, they start talking about Frank, which she's it says she's a lot like half serious about him being a potential suitor, yet she still does not want to give up her vow to remain single, which is very, very bad, which is a lot of with the choices of their society. Like hold on, let's change the thought. Oh yeah, there's a lot of themes that were brought up because of it, and then or I could say it's just obstacles that blind her actual affection. Like she keeps thinking for herself, not for anyone else. That's why. And it's I think it brings out the theme of the blinding power of imagination. She imagines herself being single for a long time, which doesn't really help her as much. And then Emma ends up finding herself alone in the carriage with Mr. Elton after the party, where in the strange fact he proposes to her, which is makes it more awkward. So she actually thought he was drunk, so she like sharply rebukes him and refuses his proposal, which leads them into that awkward, angry silence. So like a lot through these chapters, I think guys, there's a lot of prejudice, especially towards Frank and Jane, because we don't really know them yet, but they keep getting judged, and it's not even that much of first impressions. It's just the first thought that they haven't heard of them, and then since Emma knows how Mr. Weston turns out, and then how his first wife, she just figured he's gonna be this nice, charming man and be everything all holy and great. And then Jane, all we know is that she doesn't really like her for the moment, probably because he asked. But that's just a thought, and that's my thought on Emma.